On behalf of NOSH Live, we want to welcome our next guest, who until last month was the managing director at the Mark Cuban Companies. And he recently founded and will serve as the chief investment officer of a multifamily office called Legacy Knight in Dallas. Now, as a conference organizer and moderator, it's often uncomfortable when your guest tells you, well, yeah, I just quit that job. But Abe also told me upon leaving that he's going from 1 billionaire to 4, which meant that we only had to scramble a little bit to rework the scope of this interview, and we've done so, and now have a great opportunity to hear about not one, but 2 different unique classes of investors. The celebrity businessman and the high net worth family office. And to take us through through methods of working with both of those kinds of investors, the value add they provide, and his own really unique background as an operator, I'd like y'all to welcome Abe Minkara. Thanks very much for coming. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what your path's been like.
So for the last 7 years, I worked with the Mark Cuban Companies, and a lot of the brands that you see on Shark Tank. So who here watches Shark Tank? Just raise your hand. Great. So Shark Tank is almost like what you're going to see tomorrow in the pitch competition, where you have, so all the sharks, and this is non-scripted, they have no idea what companies are coming in. And those companies have 3 minutes or less just to pitch the ideas, and then it's a non-scripted Q&A. And those deals really happen. And when Mark comes back with a list of companies, the ones that close end up being on TV, and those are the companies we work with as a team. So we built a team just to help accelerate growth, and in a lot of them you see their success stories on Shark Tank. And we do all the heavy work and lifting on the back, and we don't get any of the credit for it though. But
So what is that? And we've had Shark Tank winners on before. We've even had Survivor participants on before. But one of the things that I think is interesting is what happens afterwards. You know, how you leverage an investor with. You know, quite frankly, it's not like you're getting Diplo on board. You're actually getting a brilliant businessman and his team on board. So, it's something of a unicorn to pull these people on. But when they're there, how do you use them best, and what should your expectations be about the interactions with them?
So it's an opportunity. You have to be prepared for it. So the celebrity, let's say the show is as a platform, all of these things are great for the brand, but you also have to be ready and you have to know how to monetize it. Just an example, if your website crashes when you're on Shark Tank, you're not ready. You're missing out on that opportunity. If you have a celebrity investor and you're not really using that celebrity investor, or you haven't really set expectations on how the relationship is, then you're also missing out. And celebrity investors, they all bring in their share to the brands. I think I liked the comment earlier where if they actually give you a check, that means they're more fully committed. And it's true. And each celebrity, you have business celebrities, you have celebrities specific to your industry, you have just TV celebrities. They all bring something different. And that's, as a brand, you need to make sure what you're getting into. So the other thing is it's about consistency as well. As some of the brands here, when you work with influencers, one tweet or one post is not going to do anything. It's just the consistency and the storytelling that's going to make the difference.
So that's, I think, talking about folks who have presence, who are influencers. What about the value add of someone who's actually, made money through business.
Yeah.
Not to say that entertainment isn't a business, but what is the sort of business savvy that the team brings that Mark brought or you brought to some of the brands that were brought on board?
Well, we also bring experience because we've learned through working with many brands where we can focus and prioritize our time early on. But let's say in the Shark Tank world, if you are a new Shark Tank company, the first thing we do is make sure you're ready before the show. And so let's say what we actually close, and we know when the company's airing, and they know they have maybe 2 weeks notice. But we need to make sure that platform, that one-time event, which is huge for the brand, you have to be ready for it. Which means, do you have the right online presence? Are you also in line with your other partners? So let's say if you're with Whole Foods, or let's say you're with Walmart, do your buyers know? Are they prepared to monetize on that launch? Do you have enough inventory? Are you prepared on that front? If you don't, do you have the right back order strategy? So there's a lot that has to be done, even with this one-time event.
So what have you seen that's effective follow-through and ineffective follow-through with regard to brands that all of a sudden receive a lot of attention?
Well, the first thing is you need to be ready for the type of feedback you're getting. And the triage that we have for just this big scope on Shark Tank, you have your customers first. And you need to have the right messaging for your customers, and make sure we're in a data world right now, so you got to capture all that data and make sure that you are also categorizing all this information that comes in. Who's my customer? What type of customer they are? And then you'll get investors, you'll get vendors, you'll get strategic partners, you'll get media. So internally, as a company, you got to figure out also who's going to be delegated to follow up on all these different tasks. Because if you miss out on all of that information that's coming in from that big event, and throughout the life of your company, you will have those big spikes. Some are intentional, where you pay for, and some are organic, which are great. But you have to be ready, because you have to keep building on that momentum. And if you lose that momentum, those are opportunities that don't come easily. So you definitely need to be prepared. And then use that information and then try to push it to the next level. So let's say you're on Shark Tank, definitely. You're on an event, say, I was on Shark Tank. You're a winner tomorrow at the NOSH event. Just claim it and use it. It opens doors.
What's the best way to deploy that? Is it through social? Is it through, do you want to put on your cards like Shark Tank winner?
Well,
and also, I guess the other question is,
yeah.
how do you move beyond the show and talk about the quality of what it is you're doing?
It's a great question. So, and it is important for you as a brand. Let's say the Shark Tank platform or the NOSH platform tomorrow is very important, because having been selected to be there and then winning it is a big, it's an opportunity. It's also a great feat to have gone through it. But you take that and you build on it. You can't always say, hey, I won NOSH, the NOSH pitch event, or I was on Shark Tank and I got an investment. You just take it and build it, and then you create your own identity as a founder, as a brand, and then you become your own platform.
Yeah.
And then you have to have your strategy for where you want to be in terms of who your customer is and how you want to connect with your customer based on an omni-channel approach.
So we're in a time of entrepreneurs as celebrities themselves. Everyone from Elon Musk on down. How good are they at deploying themselves and using that power they have, that media attention they have, effectively?
I think they're good, right? Media is good. The key is it has to be authentic, right? I think the big celebrities that have an authentic voice get across. And if they have something to sell, people connect with that. And it's the same thing with if you're paying for a celebrity or you have a celebrity on your team or as an investor, it has to come out authentic. You can't be staged anymore. That's what your customers want that. And also it has to align with your brand. So if your brand is all about fake stuff, bring in a celebrity and just make them fake it, which won't be very hard, but you won't sell much. I think it's really, at the end, it's all about the messaging. Who are you as a brand, and is this celebrity really the right person to tell your story, right? In many cases, we've seen some of our entrepreneurs, they are great storytellers. They are celebrities on their own. They just don't know it yet. But they just want to rely on the outside celebrities to come and tell them how it should be done, when they're the best storytellers for their own brand. So you just got to believe in yourself, and sometimes you're your own best celebrity.
Absolutely. And so I want to talk about some of, leveraging more than just celebrity, but in fact, leveraging these kind of value add board members and investors, be they sort of long-term, well-resourced family offices, or simply folks who've been highly successful in business in the past. And I think to cue that up, first of all, I want to talk about your own background as an operator and what that's taught you as you look at food and beverage companies now.
Yeah, this is the ultimate question for entrepreneurs. Who do you say yes to when they give you a check, right? And we have, for the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of working with many entrepreneurs, and in many cases, being kind of a co-CEO. And we've been through many journeys of failures and successes. And no matter at what stage, you're always going to need more money. When hopefully you're not going to ask for it when you're out of cash. That's the worst time. But there will be opportunities where you need growth capital. And that's where you have the opportunity to be more strategic. When you don't have any money in the bank, someone gives you a check, you're going to take it, right? You want to keep the business alive. You're not going to really think twice about, I have all these options. Should I pick investor A or B? But if you're in a good stage where you've developed your brand, you have distribution, you have revenue, and you have the option of looking at a few investors, that's where you have to really think about, okay, who's the most aligned with where I want to be, where this brand wants to go. And that's where you look at that investor as experience. Do they have a team? Have they actually had an exit? What added value do they provide besides the money? Because it's very, very important. And then, because a lot of those investors end up being on the board or your advisory board. And that also provides a lot of value. And sometimes, building an advisory board is very important. And it's something we advise, especially early stage brands. Just for the right advisors would actually want to be on your advisory board because they believe in your brand. And usually they don't ask for anything. And if they do, they're probably the wrong advisor for you. So just bring them for their expertise. And eventually, as you grow as a company, they could be the right director on your board when the time is right. And you could have celebrity investors just to spice it up, because sometimes having, let's say, a celebrity on an advisory board could attract another financial investor that's right for you.
Let's talk a little bit about the family office opportunity and how that's a value add. Like, why would I want that kind of, and I'm, I think a lot of people understand why, but what's the specific best reason to try and work with a family office?
So family offices are, what makes them different is your options right now as brands. Early stage, you have the VCs, and they're great. You have accelerators, you have incubators. There's so many things. You have angel investors, And then as you get to the next level, you're looking for growth capital. You have private equity as an option. And the private equity groups are great. They usually have very skilled operators on the team. The difference, and then you have family offices. So family offices are an alternative private equity in the growth stage. The difference is a family office is probably going to be more aligned with you as an entrepreneur, business owner, because they will probably, if they're aligned with on your long-term vision, they don't really have any internal criteria to sell your company in 5 to 7 years, which is what private equity does, because that's their business model. So that's where the family office business comes in, is there could be more aligned with you on a long-term strategy for growth. Now, if you're an entrepreneur that just wants to start a business and sell in 5 years, private equity is great, right? But that's where, and I think we're seeing more family office now. And what's happening in the family office space is it's moving more from the wealth management domain to direct investments in private equity, and you're going to see a lot more activity in that from family offices.
Why?
That's where they see the opportunity for growth.
Okay. So
entrepreneurs, such as everyone in this room, are what family offices are looking for. But the thing is, it's the kind of capital that's going to expect you to have already proven a model, and you just need the right partner to scale. That's when you go to a family office.
Yeah, so not the same level of, say, tactical expertise or assistance that you might get from private equity or VC?
You probably won't have the same operational expertise as a private equity group, especially if they're focused on a specific niche. But you will have, they could have experience through their own business that they've sold and became multimillionaires, and that's why they have a family office, and that's the perspective they bring to the table. And then eventually, some family offices are building a team of experts as well in different domains they would like to invest in.
Now, is that your position now? Is sort of the?
That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're creating a multifamily office, so we are creating a shared platform for a number of families, and to be almost like on the wealth management side and on the deal side for investing. So we would be their outsourced CIO, Chief Investment Officer, to look at deals to bring them so they could do direct investments in.
Are you expecting to provide that kind of tactical experience? I know you go deep in
That's a good example. That's right.
And supply chain.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about some of the strengths or weaknesses you see in earlier stage food companies with regard to operations and supply chain. I mean, how aware have the brands that you've dealt with been with regard to the ones that have cropped up in deal flow?
Well, the good news is this is a very hot category right now, and we see it. There's more of an interest from the investment community on food brands, especially natural food brands. And the challenges are just with any other company where there's so many things that go wrong in the manufacturing process. It's consistency when it comes to manufacturing and then having the right cash balance for inventory. And really, I think the core is the key, and the challenge I see the most are twofold. It's either on really having the right relationship with the right manufacturer, because quality is what it's all about, right? And then understanding the logistics behind it, especially if you don't, let's say, have a 2-year shelf life, or if you need certain requirements when it comes to preserving your product in a certain temperature, right? Let's say if you have a frozen product, it's one of the most challenging businesses you can be in, right? And then once you have that in place, is making sure you have the right distribution partners and the right retailers. And what we advise some of the early stage food brands is making sure they have that platform ready and optimized, and then test it out and optimize their online presence first, because that's a channel that you can own. And if there are any mistakes, you can control it easily. And then take that to the next level, create an extension of your online presence on Amazon, and then be very strategic with who your brick and mortar partner is, because you can just pick one and hit a home run. But even if you don't have that specific strategy, let's say you just don't want to be with Whole Foods, but you see other types of partners, make sure you have one partner. We still say, have one partner first, help them launch you, and then you'll figure out the strategy of how you want to approach every other channel in the brick and mortar space. It could be C-store, it could be something else.
You and I talked a lot about the term clean D2C.
Clean D2C.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? And why should these brands here be aware of it?
So clean D2C, I think what we meant is really understanding, having direct access to your customer as much as possible. I'll give you an example. Back to, it really is all about data. And the big companies, when they're changing strategies, what we're noticing is they're not going to the middle tier of service providers that gives them access to their customers. They're trying to own that channel as much as possible, because that's how you can actually get more data points of who your customer is and connect it with everything else. So you really understand your customer journey, right?
You get feedback, you fail fast, you know what they like, you know
exactly.
how they like it sent to them. How do you translate that into brick and mortar, though?
That's a challenging one. That's where if you really have a strategic brick and mortar partner, then you can work together on that front. And then you could leverage your data with their data and work together on how do you reconnect to your customer based on that information.
Are you seeing, over the years, you guys work with a lot of D2C brands. Are you seeing best practices yet that sort of arise from those relationships?
I think everyone is still experimenting, but that's the trend, is trying to make sure that every aspect of the customer journey is captured to some degree, and you're using that, and then you're actually using that to create a better experience for a customer. So which means different way to sell the customer your product, or improving your product, or in sometimes just better way of just messaging what the value is for your product. Sometimes just a slight change in how you message the value of your product changes everything. I'll give you one example. So in a previous life, I used to be an entrepreneur in CPG space. I created a company. It's a men's grooming brand, and it was a waterless shave, and I did it for head shavers. That was the niche. And it was great, and it was a great product. Waterless shave, no mess, clean. And all my friends who didn't shave their heads say, "Oh, I love it, but it's not for me." I said, if it's great for the head, it's great for the face. But the messaging was off. So I had to change the messaging and make it more broad-based. Instead of saying it's for head shavers, it said it's a 3-in-1 shave, pre-shave, shave, aftershave, all in one, and it clicked.
Yeah.
Same product.
It's interesting. I had this discussion with a brand last night about there may be more customers out there than what you think your original principle was.
That's right.
So one last question. How do brands get in touch with you from here on in?
LinkedIn, probably the best way, and I'll be around. So would love to hear all your stories and see if any way I can help.
All right. Abe, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy the video? For more from NOSH, hit subscribe and ding the bell.